Hey everyone, I haven't really spoken so much here. In fact, this could be the first time you're hearing my voice. If so, hi. In this video, I'll be sharing my experiences with game dev, and the current game I started way back in 2021. Based on multiple influences from every guy's man crush, I'll be creating a game based entirely on the average American school experience, with an unkillable hero and a variety of features that make every problem solvable in a variety of ways.
I'm still depressed.
So, let's get into it.
Ow.
In game development, nailing the player is key, which is why I can't use any janky controller I've made. So instead, I'll be looking for a juicy third-person controller. I could come up with my own code for the basics, but I don't know what I'm doing. And since I'm lazy, now that I've politely taken this entire project, I can start making my own features. I should have prefaced this, but I'm actually a thick boy when it comes to programming. I know and have written my own climbing and gun systems in C# for Unity. And I've experimented with Python and even used blueprints for Unreal. Heck, I've even used blocks for Scratch. So, coming up with features and how to implement them wouldn't be new to me. I'm no pro, but I'm definitely not a noob either.
I mean, like, you're not the best, like...
First, a combat system. Although initially simple, I love coding up modular systems that can be used for any project. So, I need a system that will allow me to add any animations and directly implement that into the combo. I also want the choice to switch between a chronological in order sequence of attacks or randomized, because I don't know if you guys know what chronological means. No offense. Thankfully, I've had experience programming combat systems prior on coding websites such as Scratch. So this process was as smooth as yo mama.
What?
To do the combos in order, I have a counter that detects each click, counting up from 0 since elements in programming begin at 0. Duh. Then, if there isn't any attack input given within a certain amount of time, I reset the counter back to 0. To randomize, Unreal has a function for selecting a random integer within a range, so that was even simpler to set up, and I don't want to have to worry about animations just yet.
We're not doing... No? Okay.
Next came up the weapons. I don't want to bore you with making each weapon, nor spoil too much of the game, so I'll go over the highlights instead. First, the school supply, guns. Initially, I made it so that every time the left mouse button was clicked, the shooting animation would play, since every FPS game does that. This worked, but when it came to coding the bullets, I faced my first problem. The issue was that I didn't know how to have the gun shoot continuously if the left mouse button was held. Luckily, a quick Google search had a solution, but the problem now was that the gun was delayed before shooting, since it needed a delay between each shot. Although it was barely a second of delay, it was noticeable enough during playtests, so I needed to fix it somehow. I laid out what exactly the gun system needed to do, and the best way to approach each step. The gun mechanics I needed would be allowing the gun to shoot the first bullet immediately, and then having each consecutive bullet be delayed. Now, after weeks of agonizing research and bugs with each new solution I found, I finally came across some built-in macros included with owls. Basically, macros are like functions, but they can have more than one execution. With these macros, I built my empire, and the gun system was finally in place. Next was the bug. I had no clue on how to do this, but thankfully YouTube had a tutorial that had exactly what I needed, so I could just... Essentially, the bow has its own animation blueprint that allows me to change the draw strength of the string, allowing for dynamic animations that adjust with the pull of the arrow. Basically, string go. Whee! Afterwards, I decided on adding a shield system inspired by America's ass. Obviously, this would be a very complex system, so I broke it down into the simplest parts. First, get the shield to go from my hand to any point that I aim at. To do this, I used a line trace from the camera to the aim point. That way, it would be more accurate rather than from the player to the aim point. And I also began researching about splines. See, in Unreal, splines are useful for a variety of things, mainly paths. Using a timeline, you can code an object to follow the spline via the timeline's update. Now, I'm guessing you can see where I'm going here. This would be the best way to map out the path of the shield and have accurate hits. I would have made it drop after it reached a certain distance, but that's an issue for future me to figure out. Next, I wanted to have targets that you could dynamically select the shield to hit. For this, I just had an array with the start and end points of the spline and added in between the target points, being the enemies you select. Now, I can hit multiple enemies with one throw. Yippee! Finally, I began working on possession. Why, you may be asking? In my mind, I wanted to create a ghost possession game where you're someone who's been killed by Mr. Red, the title of the game, who's basically a mob boss. The game would revolve around you taking your revenge, looking for him by killing levels of his henchmen in creative ways. But you can't interact with living beings. But you can possess them and objects, hence using them to kill each other in creative ways. Now, where was I? Oh yeah, possession. So, for the possession system, Unreal already has a mechanic for possessions, for cases like getting into a car. However, this possession will be for people. As with all things, I found a YouTube video for possessing mechs in Unreal Engine 5 and adapted the methodology. Although tricky with all systems since the player and enemies share the same character blueprint, I eventually got it working by checking which actor was actually possessed by the player controller, something you can do with Unreal. And that's it. This is where we are so far. I'll be releasing more devlogs into the future, so if you like this one, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks for watching.